Well, good morning, Greenwich, and welcome to the Wednesday, March 3rd edition of the Basement Academy. I think today's study or question and answer will probably take us to the gymnasium of the soul. I think there'll be some things to interact with here that will give us a workout. I hope so. And I pray that it is a workout that leads to greater faith, hope, and love through Christ. Let's dive into our morning psalm before we get to the question. Psalm 3, the context of this is when David fled from his son Absalom, kind of a family coup against the throne. Absalom rebels against his father. And so David prays, "O Lord, how many are my foes? How many rise up against me? Many are saying of me, God will not deliver him. But you are a shield around me, O Lord. You bestow glory on me and lift up my head. To the Lord I cry aloud, and he answers me from his holy hill. I lie down and sleep. I wake again because the Lord sustains me. I will not fear the tens of thousands drawn up against me on every side. Arise, O Lord, deliver me, O my God. Strike all my enemies on the jaw, break the teeth of the wicked. From the Lord comes deliverance. May your blessing be on your people." Amen. And so you hear David right out of the gate, "Lord, have mercy. How many are my foes? How many rise against me?" The members of his own family. What a painful reality that must have been. Close associates went over to Absalom, some of his advisors, and then, of course, the people. And so David finds himself at odds with his family, with his community, with the world, as it were. And he appeals to the Lord for help. And there's this sense of calm in the midst of the storm. You are a shield around me. You bestow glory. You lift up my head. So the tendency when we're, embattled is to, or discouraged is to look down. And so you lift my head. I'm aware. I sleep. I wake again. For you sustain me. I will not fear the tens of thousands drawn up against me. Very helpful psalm to have when we feel like the world around us, maybe we're at odds with folks in our family over issues of faith, issues of culture, issues of how to live this life right now, this faithful Christian life. So Psalm 3, we need this one in our prayer repertoire. Okay, my question is, today's a doozy, okay? Today is a doozy. Let me read the question, then I'm really going to try to kind of comment or answer it several places. And we're only getting one today. It's pretty comprehensive. Due to the current state of the public school system and its response to the virus, we have become viciously angry and hateful about our public school employees. Although many teachers may be doing their individual very best within a broken system, our kids continue to suffer nonetheless. So a parental concern. Given issues such as critical race theory and other progressive teaching ideas, along with the current disregard for in-person learning and students' well-being, shouldn't the church openly declare that public schools are anti-Christian? Okay, so that's the first question. Given all of this, the teaching ideas that are coming in, critical race theory, etc., should the church declare that public schools are anti-Christian? How do you suggest parents address and voice our brewing anger? What do you say to parents financially unable to remove their kids from public schools? Are we in a Christian civil war against teachers? And it says here, and the Democrat agenda. I don't want to take a side on this one. Okay. Wow. Okay, so that's coming at us. Let me start by saying my kids are up and out of public schools. Okay, so my youngest is 23. We're 23, 26, and 28 now. Okay, so our kids are up and out. So I'm not directly affected by the pandemic and some of the recent influence of critical race theory, etc. Though I would have to say my number three child, our youngest, is in his first year of teaching as a public school employee in Loudoun County. So he's at Brambleton Middle School. And so we've been tracking with him and praying for him through all the challenges of not only first year teaching, first year vocation, but now teaching to the eye, to the camera. And so this coming week, they go in person. Okay. So, so this reality is within our family in some way. So let me just say, I hear the parents' concern here. I do not know who asked this question and raised these concerns, but I share the concern. There's the garden variety concern that always is present as parents of young ones going through school, just the garden variety developmental, educational challenges and parenting challenges. But then you lay on top of that the pandemic and then the culture shift that's going on, this cultural tsunami that I've been talking to. So it's real. So I affirm, I validate, I hear the concern, though I'm not directly that parent right now. I stand with you. With respect to critical race theory, the progressive agenda, as it were, I want to say this and try to be thoughtful and clear about this. So I've spoken many times in this forum in this last year about the cultural tsunami, as I call it. In fact, the very last gathering I had with parents before we shut down last year, a year ago, okay? So it was March 1st of last year. We had a Sunday evening family fellowship. We ate together, and then the parents and I went over to the chapel, and I addressed these things. And I've addressed the Basement Academy, okay? So I've been speaking to it. I will speak about this again in coming weeks. The cultural tsunami is real. The critical race theory, the teachings, there's an alternative curriculum that is coming, that is here. It's an ideology, I believe. Okay, it's a relatively coherent package. Okay, so there's pieces that don't always fit together, but it comes at us kind of from one direction. Okay, it comes kind of whole cloth. It's an intellectual cognitive framework. It's a cosmology, essentially. Cosmology would be a worldview, cosmos, world, study of the world. So it's a worldview that is coming at us. And it's coming at us alternatively from what most of us who are watching or listening to this, what we were raised with. We were raised with a framework, an understanding of United States history, of world history, of science and English and mathematics, reading, writing, arithmetic, of civics. Okay, so that's the way we used to call it, civics class, right, in high school. Of ethics, of how we behave towards authority. So we were educated in a framework. And an alternative framework is coming. And I would say, and I will welcome some pushback on this or some feedback, I would say that what's coming is not dissimilar. It's a double negative, I realize. So it's not dissimilar from religious instruction and education. So it is like religious instruction, catechism, okay? So once upon a time, folks, even in public schools, folks at Greenwich have talked about at the Greenwich School and Nokesville School, and some went to a Greenwich School. There was a day a week there would be religious instruction in school, public schools. Well, those days are gone. But what I would say is what's coming down the pike, it's an emphasis as well as a curriculum. The emphasis on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Anytime you hear those words, you know we're talking about this ideology. Anytime you hear we're committed to a diverse student body, a diverse and equitable and inclusive curriculum, and sports and extracurricular activities that honor our diversity, any of that language is now this thing, okay? So you know you're talking about the thing. And then the curriculum itself is changing. The 1619 project, a writing project, a curricular project put out by the New York Times last year on the 400th anniversary of the arrival of African slaves to the American colonies. They were British colonies here in America. As saying that the founding of America was not 1776, it's now 1619. The narrative we should understand about U.S. history is it's a narrative around white Western European colonialism that seeks to oppress people of color, especially African Americans, through slavery, and that is the true purpose of America. And so the Constitution is a racist document that is seeking to preserve white supremacy and white privilege. That curriculum is coming to public schools. It is in public schools. It's a historical project that has been debunked by many credible historical scholars that are across the political spectrum. It's just bad history, but it is coming anyway. It's prevailing. It is coming to our public schools. I don't know exactly if it's come here yet, but it will eventually to our community. So what I would say is that it is with a religious intensity and focus that this new curricular program and project has come to our public schools, but it is not a religion, though it does talk about the origins of humanity, that is evolution. That's been going on for a while. It speaks to ethics, how we ought to behave, and so denouncing whiteness, etc., advancing people of color in certain ways. And so there's the whole ethical reality around what justice is. So while I don't know that the church should declare the schools anti-Christian, I don't know how that would happen. Greenwich doesn't make statements, okay? Our denomination's not going to make a statement like that, nor perhaps should it. But I understand the heart or the concern of, I believe I understand the concern of the questioner, and I'm sympathetic to that. And so what I would say is this critical race theory, the progressive teaching agenda, the 1619 Project, diversity, equity, inclusion, all that package that is coming, that is already here. It's not like coming next week. It's here, and it's playing out through school boards, and it's playing out through classrooms. We ought to be concerned about that. I am concerned about that. Our children will be inculcated, but more importantly, will they be able to dissent from that? If they say, I think differently about this. This is back to the Basement Academy, 2 weeks ago, when we were talking about young Earth, old Earth, creationism, etc. And are we able to dissent from that in the public schools? Say, I believe God created the heavens and the earth, and if you write that in public school, will you be penalized? And so similarly, now you broaden the place where dissent may be called for, and what will be the response of the schools or the teachers or the administration to a student or a group of students who dissent from what essentially is an ideology, okay? What's an ideology? So how do we deal with parents' anger and the other questions? So first, I share the concern. And so I understand. I would be upset. I am upset. I don't have a kid in the school system. So I would say, parents, you have to confront your anger. You've got to learn to pray your anger. Okay, so that's why the Psalms, we need to pray our anger. I don't know if you've ever heard this concept that I'm getting ready to share with you, but it's very important. I've spoken about it in family gatherings. We just haven't been able to have those for a while in our family forums. there was a hidden curriculum to the schools, right? So the curriculum is the reading, writing, arithmetic, or the ideology that's coming down. So there's the syllabus and the texts that you read and the homework assignments, the body of knowledge you have to master. That's the curriculum. There's a hidden curriculum, and that's the character formation. Perhaps the way to illustrate this was my father, I believe he was quoting Mark Twain, when I headed off to UVA all those years ago, University of Virginia. He said, "Son, don't let your studies interfere with your education." And at 18, I didn't fully understand what that meant. I get it now. There's more to school than what's happening in the classroom. There's more to school than the textbook and the assignments and the labs, etc., and the papers. It's getting along with roommates, getting along with suite mates, learning how to manage limited resources. You get money from mom and dad to, buy your books and your snacks and all that stuff. It's learning how to live in community. It's learning how to fulfill responsibilities, multiple responsibilities. I was playing baseball down at UVA, and so I'm doing that while I'm doing my engineering curriculum. And so, wow, it's all going on. And so there's a hidden curriculum for the students, and there's how to respect authority. There's a hidden curriculum for the parents. And so the pandemic is causing another the hidden curriculum, just pressing on, doing the work, hanging in there. There's a character formation. There's a resilience, a perseverance, a tenacity that is forming, an adaptability. My son, the teacher, is engaging this. The students and parents are engaging this. We're finding how flexible we are. That's part of the hidden curriculum. And so dealing with disappointment, dealing with it's unfair, it's not right, those are part of the hidden curriculum. Now, we told our kids when they would come home from school, and this was many times over the years, the teacher said I was doing something, but I wasn't doing it. I was just came out of the bathroom at the time I was in the hall, and such and such happened, and all of a sudden we all got in trouble, but I really didn't do it. I said, well, you're going to have to find a way not to do the thing you did, because, if the teacher said you did it, then I'm going to side with the teacher. Okay? So we always let them know if the umpire calls it a strike, then it's a strike. And I said, and we told our kids, life is not fair. Whoever told you that life was fair? All kinds of things are going to happen in life that are not fair. You're going to get hard. You got a hard teacher now that seems undemanding and seems like, to let these people get away with things, but you're going to have bosses like that. Life is not fair. Get used to it. So that's the hidden curriculum. So parents, your anger, your disappointment, your frustration at what's going on, your kids are watching how you're handling the hidden curriculum. It's time for you. The challenge, and I realize I'm challenging you, the challenge for parents is to step up and to confront your anger. Don't explode in anger. There's appropriate ways to voice your anger. I'm sure there's portals by which you can make your concerns known to the school board. You can make it known to your teachers and whatnot, but stand with your teachers. Stand with your teachers. Even if you disagree with some things, say, hey, Mr. Jones, Mr. Smith, Miss McGuffin, can I meet with you and discuss this? As opposed to explode in anger. Teachers are grinding too. They're people too. Okay? I'm not saying that just because I got a kid who's a teacher. It's a human thing. We are called to be Christians, and Christians in difficult situations, often the first thing they have to do, and we forget to do, is to control our own emotions. And so the anger, how to give voice to it, the first thing is to handle it, to experience self-control, to think your way through it, to say, how can I step up as a Christian and demonstrate a character here? So that's I would say that. The first place, how to suggest parents address and voice their brewing anger. Pray it, pray the Psalms. Come to me. Let's talk it through. If you want to talk face-to-face or person to person, let's do that. But understand that this is part of the opportunity that God is giving. The hidden curriculum is an opportunity to grow in character and perseverance and wisdom and humility and compassion, in discernment, in self-control, all of those things that we preach about and teach about it gets worked out in the crucible of real life. So you're in the crucible, and so parents, lead your kids into the hidden curriculum by the way you're handling your anger. What I say to parents financially unable to remove their kids from public schools? And I'll say, well, then you're going to have to double down on the Christian formation of your children, and you're going to have to double down on mastering the hidden curriculum. I'm not saying that dismissively. I'm saying it earnestly. If you can't take your kids out of the public schools, which is what you might want to do, then you're going to have to figure that thing out. You're going to have to double down on your commitment to leading them in the way of Jesus Christ and to discerning and be aware of what they're being taught. And that's going to be a lot of work. Now, there's a school of thinking that says keep your kids in public schools because that's the world they're going to encounter when they get beyond the public schools. They go off to college and beyond. So there's an argument that says keep the kid in public school, but then come alongside them in a double down kind of way to really commit to their Christian formation. But I would also say for parents unable to remove the students, make sure you're unable financially. Yesterday, I spoke to a wife who was concerned about tithing and trying to find more money to give, etc. That conversation. If you haven't watched that, go watch yesterday's. There's money. Most of us, again, not all, but most of us have a little bit of money that we're frittering away, okay? It may be a season when you just don't take the big family vacation, because every time we haven't, because of my mom living with us, we haven't been on a family vacation for like 4 years now, 5 years. And so, but I remember when we would take the kids to the beach, we were dropping like, $3,500 every time because you rent the house and because we would go with other families and that was a choice we made. We knew it, we saved for it and did it. Well, maybe there's a stretch where you don't take those kind of family vacations, and that's how you release some funds for. Now, again, that may not be enough money. I don't fully know the cost of private education, but you could hire tutors. There's other things you can do that does, we again, doubling down on their Christian formation. So it's an examination of our priorities. That's the challenge. We can't just abandon kids to the screens. The challenges are real right now. Oh, they are real. Technology, the advent of the smartphone. My kids we parented before the age of the smartphone. We had flip phones, and our kids didn't get them till they started to drive, and each of our kids drove a little late, kind of when they're about 17. They didn't drive, right at 16. And so, but there's choices, there's choices we make. We commit to the tithing, and so we don't drive the new cars. Those are priorities we make with our finances. And so we wrestle that through, but you're going to have to think through how to, monitor your child's engagement with social media and peer influence through social media. Our students, our children and grandchildren are encountering information and concepts and ideas and images far beyond what we ever, at a younger age, far beyond what we saw at a much, much later age. I mean, we weren't exposed to things till we were 16, 18, 20, 25, that children now who are not even 10 years old are wrestling with, two mommies, two daddies. How does that work? Because of the culture and because of the curriculum, right, that our public schools are bringing. And so we have to figure some things out. And so the church has a role. Part of me doing what I'm doing right now is part of my commitment, okay? So again, the responsibility of the church is to take a baptismal vow to stand with parents. We take a vow, whether your children were baptized here or not, we've taken that vow to support and assist our parents in the Christian nurture of their children. Parents are primary, church is secondary, but we have a role. So our kids programming, our youth programming, our family programming and parents, and I believe we need to do more than we are doing, and that's part of the challenge is the survey that we have just completed or are completing and analyzing now, the families aren't engaged. They're not coming on Sunday morning. We're observing that. We can just see that with our eyes. And some of the families are engaging in remote worship, but not all. And so how do we stand with you as parents? Okay, I don't want to just say, go do it, toughen up and, step up and that's it. We have a role, but we're struggling to find that role because we can't see you as much. And so I'm developing podcasts with Samantha Spittle to speak to some of these issues. We're going to develop webinars, but it still requires parents to lean into some of that. So this is a partnership, and we commit to partner with you. I guess finally, the question about, are we in a Christian civil war? And the questioner talks about against teachers and a particular political platform or party. I certainly don't think we're against teachers and against a political party, because there are problems with all political parties. Okay, so there's to call one out and not the other, I think as Christians would not be appropriate, and in fact it would be naive. So you can see just over my shoulder, if you're watching the video, if you're listening by podcast, I've got a bumper sticker that I just received in the mail. Live not by lies. That's a phrase from a speech by Alexander Solzhenitsyn, who was, of course, a political prisoner of conscience in the Soviet Gulag. And he endured. And he had much to say about what's going on in the West, what's going on elsewhere, but we must live not by lies. We must live by the truth. We must dissent from the lies. Is there a Christian civil war against us? No, this is nothing new. And this is a clear theme of mine. Jesus said very clearly, do not be surprised if the world hates you. It hated me first. And we hear that and go, what do you mean? The world, everybody loves Jesus. Sweet Jesus, meek and mild, loves the children, heals everybody. No, people hate Jesus. That's why they killed him, right? The world put Jesus to death. He threatened the religious leaders, and so they were jealous, and so they sent him off to Pilate, and Pilate was so cowardly he couldn't, render his judgment. He feared the people, and so the world hated Jesus. And the world continues to hate the truth. And so what we're experiencing is just the spiritual warfare in our time, in our generation. And it comes at us from all sides. It comes at us certainly from the world, but it even abides in the church. And that's the challenge. It was the religious leaders who sent Jesus off to Pilate. They should have known better. They were looking for Messiah, ostensibly, but they weren't. They were looking to protect their own influence. And so we have lost the home field advantage. The conservative Christian understanding, the ethical framework that we were nurtured in, an understanding of citizenship. Some of that maybe is our own fault, that we haven't catechized our own children well, and we have, it's not a political thing, it's a religious thing. Okay, I want to not make sure we've lost this, political war, and therefore, no. It's always and everywhere a spiritual warfare. Okay, it's a spiritual battle, not against flesh and blood. When you play on the road, when a team is not the home team, when you're the home team, you got the stands are packed, your people are cheering, go team, go. It bolsters the home team. They call it the home field advantage. When you're the visiting team, you got the hecklers. You don't have your own fans there, but just and so it's harder to play on the road. And some teams don't play well on the road, and some teams really do. Their coaches get them ready. There's unity, there's resilience, there's perseverance, there's tenacity, there's focus, but there's a commitment that the players have to make and the team has to make to play well on the road. And so that is coming to the conservative, traditional, historic, Orthodox Christian church. We're now playing as visitors. We've lost the home field advantage. In the schools, in higher education, in industry, in law, in government, and again, I'm not speaking politically. There's apparatuses, apparati. What's the word? There are mechanisms at play, cultural dynamics and forces at play that are wholly aligned against, totally aligned against the Christian faith. When you play on the road, you develop resilience. You develop character. You develop toughness. And so that's what's happening, and that's not all bad. It's not all easy, but it's not all bad. And I believe that is what we're called to. And that's my commitment is to be this kind of pastor, kind of truth teller, maybe say some hard or harder things. I welcome correction and feedback around this. We've talked, Eric and I have been talking recently, thinking mostly about children and students, but it might actually be appropriate as well for adults. An apprentice program. What would it be to develop a program for Christian apprentices? But we've been thinking in terms of children, books for them to read, experiences for them to have, conversations to be. So instead of a traditional confirmation class where you sit there and kind of get talked at, that it would be a more dynamic experience. But the whole point of it would be to teach these students, these young people, to be apprentices of Jesus. The word disciple, as you know, if you've been following the Basement Academy, I'm trying to set that aside because it's lost its punch. Apprentice talks about learning a skill, learning a craft, mastering a discipline, a body of knowledge and the applied knowledge in some way. So the language of apprenticeship is truly the language of Christian formation and Christian faithfulness. And so we've been talking about that. But we won't be able to pull that off by ourselves. It's something, there's a commitment. If we're going to make it through this and we're going to navigate these choppy waters, it's not going to be a school board decision. It's not going to be just a one-off thing. It's going to be a wholehearted commitment that we make. And I'll talk more about this in some coming weeks as I try to unpack this whole woke ideology thing. But, well, we're about time. So let me wrap up. I just want to say I'm with you. This is serious. I'm as committed as I know how to be and want to figure out more ways to be faithful in supporting you, the questioner, and all who have students now or grandchildren perhaps who are going through this. And so let's take a moment to pray. Our God, we pray your mercy upon our families, upon our parents, upon our children, upon our teachers, upon our school administrators and school boards, and for all of us, that we might be found faithful in our time, in our generation, in the battle that comes to us, and where the battle is being waged in classrooms over ideologies that are counter to your truth and to your goodness. Then give us vigilance and watchfulness and endurance and courage and wisdom. For the questioner, I pray, knowing how to handle anger and disappointment and frustration, I pray for all of our parents, that they would embrace and master and grow through the hidden curriculum of their own character formation through this difficult time. And help us, O Lord, help me and Eric and the pastors and the staff of Greenwich to know how to stand with our parents, our families, our teachers, that we may navigate this very, very difficult time. Father, take anything that I have said that is unhelpful, untrue, unworthy, unkind. Lord, blow it away with the wind of your Spirit. But that which is true, faithful, and right, Lord, may it abide, and may we bring forth a fruit to your glory. And so we offer ourselves and our prayers now in the name of Jesus, who taught us to pray together, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come and thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. May the God who is your shield, your glory, and the lifter of your head, who will keep you at night, at morning, at noon, in the evening, you and your family. May that God keep you, bless you, watch over you this day and forevermore. Amen.